Exclamation, everybody, and welcome back to Cube Ramblings. I hope everybody has had a awesome week. I've had a very tiring week, which is evident by the fact that I keep repeating myself over and over again. Now, for me, it is Saturday night, August the 23rd. This will be going up on its usual Sunday morning, August the 24th for you guys. And I think we're in full-on convention swing mode now with news and everything else. So there's plenty of things happening and plenty of stuff going around. Before I get into the news, though, I'll talk about some of the things that are going on with my channel and what's happening here. So for those of you who follow me on Twitter, you know that I tweeted out yesterday that I was going to stop playing or stop recording Watch Dogs. That was sort of my AAA game that was taking the primary AAA slots on my channel, namely the Saturday and Monday slots. And honestly, it felt like it was getting to that point. I needed one more recording session to fail in order to finally cement that thought in my head. It's a weird thing. Like I see when I play Watch Dogs, I see the potential in the game. It's got a sort of, I wouldn't call it cyberpunk, but it's got a theme that is very much in my camp. A story theme, a sort of a universe thing. It's just the way it was implemented is just not good. Not good at all. I mean, there's a lot of like bugs in the way the missions work. There's almost no balancing in the missions. I mean, I was playing it last night, trying to get a recording done before I finally abandoned the recording and said, you know what, screw this. I'm gonna go record some Deus Ex Human Revolution, which has been on my list of things to do for ages and ages. And then just say, make a tweet out and say, look, this is over. Watch Dogs has burned me once too many here. I mean, the problem is, obviously I'm trying to record the game as I play, and that always tends to, with graphically intensive games like that, can pose a lot of the problems that I was seeing, which is, a lot of frame rate was all over the place. I mean, the thing that kills me about that, though, the first recording session I had, those first couple of missions, frame rate was pretty darn solid. And then I go and I reduced it started having problems with the second session, and I reduced the graphic settings on it, and it really hasn't cleared it up at all. It really has not cleared up. I don't know why the first two missions were so highly optimized and the rest are not, or just absolute crap. But it's really being annoying. But that in and of itself wouldn't have stopped me from continuing the series. What's really stopped me from continuing the series is that, and this is where I'm on the fence, is that, as I mentioned, I see the great potential in the story has me hooked. The premise of the story has me hooked. The story itself, I pretty much, the recording session that you'll never see because I threw it away. I basically played another story mission and pretty much predicted what the end of the game would be. I'm fairly certain. I'm going to go look it up on YouTube, but I'll bet you I probably predicted what the end of the story was going to be because it's that predictable. But there's a lot of potential there, and that's what kept me coming back to the game. Was like, yeah, there's a lot of potential here. There's just good things here. It's just that I feel like the developers just forgot to make the game fun. You know what I mean? I mean, technical issues aside, it's just not fun. I can't, and it's amazing to me because I play. I mean, you guys have seen some of the stuff that I play on my channel. I've played a lot of, well, I shouldn't say this. I play in my life. I play a lot of what most people would call crappy games, particularly the old games that I play. A lot of people would look at them and go, "Oh, these games are crap. How can you play these games?" But I really like them. I mean, I'm also a guy that will watch bad movies. You know, just terrible. I mean, I used to watch Mystery Science Theater 3000 and all those movies, not only for the comedy that they were making, but also some of those movies that they watched, I had watched on my own. You know what I mean? Because I'm just a stickler for crappy stuff, for crappy movies and stuff. I can find the good in a lot of things. That's not to say that everything I play is crap. A lot of the games I'm playing I'm enjoying a hell of a lot out of. It's just I tend to enjoy more stuff than most people do, except for puzzle games and things like that. That's where you got me. I cannot get into a puzzle game. I just can't do it. As much as I'd like to, I'm just not. I feel, and this is probably where my love-hate relationship with RTS games comes in. I feel like I don't have the smarts necessary to have fun at those games, particularly puzzle games. Like at the very beginning of a puzzle game, when it's sort of holding your hand and going like, "Here's a little nugget, here's a little easy nugget, here's a little easy nugget," I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is great, this is awesome." And then it gets difficult, and I'm like, "Okay, I don't really enjoy this anymore." And it's just, I guess it's because I jump between so many games. I'm so, you know, I like to get something accomplished in a sitting. You know, a good example of this is last night's live stream. So I've switched over from doing, you know, LCM in my live stream to doing Divinity Original Sin because I just wanted to do something, a change, and I wanted to play that game, and it's a RPG, old school RPG game. So it's an old school-ish RPG game. It's a new RPG game, but it's in the old school style. And as I've mentioned in the last week's Cube Ramblings, but it's I felt it was conducive to a live stream because there's a lot of downtime there. And last night's live stream was just the definition of downtime because I was struggling to do even basic things. Like I literally this morning I looked up on Google how to find a shovel in that game, and luckily for me, what makes me feel good is that other people had the same problem because there was a forum post right on the Steam page. It's like, how do I find a shovel? And there's like 20 people on there like, yeah, I had the same problem, and here's where you find one. So I didn't feel so bad, but I spent like the better part of 4 hours last night on the live stream just trying to figure out how to make progress on this one quest that required me to have shovels and stuff. So when I get into that mode in a puzzle game or something like that, or any game, I start to feel like if I'm not making progress in a game, I start to feel like it's not fun for me. I just like making progress, steady progress. It's okay if there's a challenge there, but it's always, as long as I'm not grinding and constantly playing the same thing over and over and over again, and you know, it's something that I feel like I can, if I play it one more time, I can get past it. Not, hey, if I play this one more time, I'm not going to get any further than what I already got, type of deal. And a lot of times with puzzle games, that's what I feel like. I feel like I could play that puzzle, that level, you know, 50 more times and still not succeed at it. And that's when I start to lose my interest, right? Very quickly. And the same thing with RTSs. This is my love-hate relationship with RTSs. And actually what got me thinking of this is I might as well jump into some of the news items here. I have a news item here that says that Sid Meier's Civilization Beyond Earth, that's going to be released on October the 24th if you're into the Civilization games. But what got me thinking about this is that I haven't played any of the Civilization games at all. And I guess I always felt like, whenever I looked at them, I always felt like the same way I always feel with an RTS game, which is when there's AI to be fought against, I often feel like I get into those situations where I just cannot, I have to cheat. I have to turn the difficulty all the way down or do something like that in order to succeed at those games, because I feel like that's the only way I can make progress sometimes, is that you get into these situations where you feel like you've done everything right and you don't know what you need to do differently to succeed, and that's when I start cheating. Whereas and I start to lose, my interest in the game then, right? But then you look at something like Soul Zero, where I'm not really going up against an AI I'm not going up against any AI opponent other than, the random disasters that happen. And I feel like in that game, I feel like I enjoy that game more because I don't have to. I've never gotten into that situation where I felt like I couldn't succeed, right? It's always, I just did this little thing wrong. If I tweak this here or I tweak that there, I can recover from that. And I guess that's why I enjoy that game so much. And it's it's a real-time strategy game, which are the type that I normally wouldn't enjoy. And yet, I feel like that if I analyze my own thoughts on it, I feel like that's where I zero in and say, this is where, this is why I like this versus this other thing. And so how did I get off on that tangent? With the Watch Dogs thing. I feel like in Watch Dogs, I'll give you an example of the mission that really caused me to just rage quit and throw away my recording. I had just finished a story mission, which was it was okay. It was relatively easy, but it was what it was. And then I saw a side quest pop up, and it was for a fixer contract that said, go immobilize these 2 targets, right? So I was like, well, okay, this seems fairly straightforward. So I hop in a car and I go for those targets, and the minute you tap one, right, these guys jump out of these cars and they've got like freaking, automatic machine guns and rockets and all kinds of crap. And it's like, holy crap, man, how the hell am I supposed to take these guys on right now? And there was no way to be better at it. I felt like I just got into that mode where I just kept replaying it and replaying. I'm like, there's no way to do this. And then if you accidentally run over one with your car and kill them, well, you've just failed the mission. If you get killed, you failed the mission. I just felt like there was no balance in what I was doing. I was like, why is this random thing showing up on my screen if I am in no condition whatsoever to handle it? I mean, I understand there are people out there who like that about, RPGs and stuff, where they, RPGs like, hey, you wandered off into a high level monster area and got yourself killed, one shot it. That's your own damn fault. And in fact, a good example of handling that properly is in Divinity. If I click on an area and I say, hey, I want to go through this gate, one of the guards will talk to me and go like, hey, I'll open a gate for you, but you don't look like you're ready for this area yet. It's like, are you sure you want to do this? Right? And then, somebody who likes to do that kind of thing will just go do it, right? But for me, it's a good indication, like, oh, okay, the game's telling me, like, hey, this is a high-level area. You're probably not going to have any fun if you walk through this door. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I can respect that. I like that. That's good. That's a good thing. I don't like it so much when it's like, hey, you're in a city and it's all looks pretty much the same and you can't really tell where high level and low level meets. So randomly we're gonna spawn in a mission that just absolutely wrecks you, and you're gonna feel terrible, like you can't make any progress in the game, and that was just driving me nuts. And half the time too, it felt like I probably could be better at the mission, but the game itself was just so hard-coded and inflexible that it just was not making it possible to do that. This side mission in particular in Watch Dogs was like, hey, you gotta immobilize these guys before they reach their destination, which their destination wasn't very far away, right? So it gives you a good maybe 5 minutes to get to them, right? And the whole game, right? This is the other thing that bothers me about it. The whole game is almost a like, hey, be stealthy. It's not a military shooter game. It's not like a Saints Row thing where it's like, hey, just be flashy and awesome, and here's some rockets and some crazy weapons and dubstep guns and stuff. Just go blow shit up, right? No, this game is built around, hey, be as stealthy as possible because you're a pushover. You can't. You're not a bullet sponge. You can't take too many hits. And then they throw in a mission that's like, all right, the only way to succeed at this is to confront them head on, and you can't. There's no possibility of you getting in front of them and getting to a perch where you can take them out any other way. Or, I tried like hacking the traffic lights to try to get them to crash and stuff. And it doesn't work because it's not the cars that you had to immobilize. It was the people inside the cars. I'm like, well, how are you actually supposed to do this? This goes against everything that was else in the game. I mean, it makes no sense. It's like, let's just throw as many things at the wall as we can, and then it's almost like half the team was like, hey, I want to do a military shooter, and the other half of the team's like, hey, I want a stealth shooter, and both halves of those teams forgot to actually make something that was fun. I mean, that's all I could think of when I looked at it, and it kind of ticks me off a little bit because it's the first game on my channel where I've actually abandoned it for a reason that I feel like is a crappy reason, right? I abandoned it because it wasn't fun. All the other games that are on my channel that have gone on hiatus for what I think are relatively good reasons. I mean, Heroine's Quest, that went on hiatus just because I got stuck, right? The same thing with Spacefront. That I intend to bring them both back once I get myself unstuck, which is going to take me some time to figure out. And I just haven't been back to. I've been actually trying to get myself unstuck from Space Run first, and I've been playing that off and on, off camera. I've been rerunning the old missions to get some money so that I can actually get past that one mission that is just completely blowing me out of the water every time I run it, right? Because the difficulty of it is just incredibly terrible. And once I get past that hurdle, then I have no problem bringing it back. Same thing with Heroine's Quest. I have that bug in my head where I'm like, I got to get into that guild hall, and I can't get into the guild hall because I've tried a couple times and I can't activate the right code to do it. And I've looked on forums and everything else, and everybody's sort of like giving you like little nuggets of hints, but nobody's actually written down like, here's exactly what you got to do. They're like, hey, you can try something like this, or you can try something like that. It's like, just freaking tell me at this point. I've been struggling with it for months. And Wing Commander Saga went on hiatus merely because it's taken me a long time to actually edit it, because I had Flux running on my machine at the time, and it muddied up all the colors, and so I'm having to color correct it as I go. I actually completed that game completely back in October, believe it or not. I've just had that footage sitting around on my machine all this time, just waiting for me to go through and just edit it, and I just have to get in my head to do that. And then plus also I've been sort of putting that off, as well as what is it? The other, the name is Star Crusader. That's the name I was looking for. Star Crusader I put on hiatus for a little bit because I felt like I had too many. First of all, I want to get through the game completely. I want to record the rest of the game entirely because this is the first time that I'm actually playing a game and I'm recording both branches. So I'm jumping back and forth between, because it branches off in two towards the end there, and I want to show both endings. And I've never played the one ending. I've only played the other one. So that's also the reason why I wanted to show both endings, because I've never played the other ending. I know how it ends, but I don't know. I've never played it. So that's a lot of extra work because I got to jump back and forth and remember where I was at in each part and all that stuff. So I wanted to, once I got to that split, which I did, I wanted to record the entire rest of the series and then have it all edited and ready to go so that I can show both branches on the same day. Like say, hey, here's episode for this branch and here's the episode for that branch all at the same time, and then that way you can, if you want to follow one branch or the other, you can follow them and not have to wait extra time to see your half of the branch. So that's what's happened with that. That was a reason that is not gameplay related. It's just it's me related. So this is the first time that I've basically thrown in the towel essentially on a game because it just wasn't fun. It just wasn't fun to play. And yet in the back of my head there's still that voice going, oh, you should try it some more. You should try some more because there's potential there. Maybe it gets better later on. Maybe it's just you, and it's that may very well be the case. But if I do that, it won't be recorded. It'll be just something I do on my own. Whenever the feeling the feeling strikes me, which, given my lack of time as it is, I very rarely do that. I very rarely go off and play something that I'm not actually recording. I think the only instance of that was I've been off and on playing Saints Row 4, and also when I'm picking up some of these indie games for the first time and just taking a look at where they're currently at and whether or not there's enough there for me to record, like Star Runners and stuff like that are going on, and Pulsar Lost Colony, which I still have to jump into, and Tiny Trek and Interstellaria and all those things. So it feels bad, but it's I think it's going to be better in the long run, for me at least, to just throw in the towel on Watch Dogs and focus on other things, especially considering that, first of all, I've wanted to do Deus Ex Human Revolution for a long time, and I pre-ordered it way back in the day and maybe put an hour or two into it and then didn't pick it up again. And now it feels good to actually be back in there again and doing that. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more I realize I probably should have, before I started my series, looked around to see if there were mods and stuff and just do a modded series. But maybe I can add mods in as I go, I guess. I guess it doesn't hurt. It was late at night. It was literally early this morning, 12 a.m. this morning to 1:30 in the morning this morning, when I was like, okay, I had my rage quit with Watch Dogs. And then I had to get something recorded for Saturday, so for Saturday morning. So I was like, well, guess I'm gonna go do this now. And I wanted to make sure it stayed in the AAA genre because that's what people are expecting. So there we go with that. And I also looked over to see if Deus Ex Revision had an update yet, and they haven't had any updates since July. So I don't know how far along they are yet in doing what they're doing, but hopefully that will be another thing along the way. So that sort of catches you up with some of the decisions I've been making on the channel. There will be other things as well that I'm not going to get into now because I got a lot of news stories to get into, but hopefully I can maybe do some of this in Minecraft or some other videos as I go. There's another game I'm actually looking at that's very similar to Minecraft that might lend itself to some more chattiness, chattiness for me, just like Cube World does. So that said, jumping back to the news stuff, I was talking about Sid Meier's Civilization Beyond Earth. There's a new video came out from it. I will link you to it, link you to the article on Polygon with the video embedded in it. And it's basically talking about the pre-order. If you pre-order now, you can get the exoplanets pack for it, which adds in some real, like, the some planets based upon some real life discovered planets, IRL. So like Gillespie in the Gillespie system is one of them. A few others that NASA has identified as exoplanets. They basically took some creative liberties and added them into the game based upon what NASA believes that they might be like. So that's pretty cool. So if you're into the Civilization stuff, I have a love-hate relationship with the RTSs, and Civilization's been one of those RTSs I've never really dug into because I always felt like I'm too dumb to face the AI a lot of times. Then that might be right up your alley there. You might want to take a look at that. So we got a few more things that have come out. So as I was mentioning earlier, we're getting into the convention string, I guess, or the convention season. So we've had Gamescom. I still have some trailers and whatnot that came out from Gamescom that I handpicked. I'm not going through every single one of them because a lot of them are games that are not very interesting to me. I'm sure they might be interesting to you guys, but not so much to me to a point where I would have anything interesting at all to say about them. But then we also have Insomnia going on right now, I believe, which is a British sort of convention thing, and which I don't know how often that runs. It seems like it runs several times a year because I think they're at like 51 or 52 or something right now. So yeah, that's an interesting one. It's sort of like, I think it spawned, I don't know for sure, but I think it spawned out of a LAN party and then became a convention, which is kind of cool if they keep that atmosphere. I think that's kind of the atmosphere that they keep in there. And then we've got PAX Prime coming up relatively soon. I think it's within the next week or two, if I'm not mistaken. So we're probably going to hear some more, stuff from that, more news coming out of that, I'm sure. Although we tend to hear a lot more news out of PAX East because it's earlier in the year. But then PAX Prime, I guess we'll hear more about the things that they're trying to release for the holiday season, I'm guessing. So that's cool. We'll see what comes out of that. But given all that, I still have a few things left here. Battlefield Hardline. The first Battlefield game that I've actually been interested in ever. Released a gameplay trailer video at Gamescom. And it showed off some of the mechanics of the game. And it's kind of interesting. So they basically took their military shooter and they tried to make it somewhat relevant to the civilian realm of things. Though interestingly enough, given recent events in this country, police are probably far closer to a militarized group than we give them credit for sometimes. But they In the trailer, it showed off some of the gunfighting. It showed up like basically the first, I think, 12 minutes of the game. It looked like, and it looks interesting. The first 12 minutes of the single player game, I should say, and I'm feeling like Battlefield Hardline, based upon what I've heard about the multiplayer, people who have beta access to the multiplayer. Based on what I've heard there, I'm thinking the single player is the thing that is getting more attention than the multiplayer, which is good for me because as I've mentioned before, not much into the multiplayer when it comes to first-person shooters because basically I don't have the kind of time necessary to get good at them, and constantly getting shot in the head by a 12-year-old who's got more time on their hands than I ever will is only fun for the first 5 minutes or so. I came off a lot more grouchier and grumpier than I wanted it to, and I apologize for that. I have nothing but utmost respect for people who have time to do nothing but get good at a game. I don't have that. I don't have that luxury at all. But that said, the single player is where it's at, and it looks like they are spending a lot of time on the single player, and that makes me happy because that's probably what I will play it for. They've got all the shooting mechanics. It looks like they've taken a lot of the Sniper Elite mechanics, like hey, I can tag enemies now using my. It's yet another game with a magic cell phone, which was basically Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs is a game with a magic cell phone. Battlefield Hardline is a game with a magic cell phone now that does everything. It's the multi-tool of the future, apparently, which I mean is hilarious when you think about it, because right now, I've worked. Let's just say the company I work for has a mobile app that we've been trying to get people to use, and we keep coming back to the same conclusion, is that people really just want to use their phone for social stuff, not for actual work stuff. So games and posting on Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. The fact that all the video games out there are, these phones can hack into other systems, and they can we're using them as binoculars to tag enemies so that we can see them, and getting all this data and stuff is like, that's fun, but it's basically a magic wand now. It's like everything's magic now. Not really how it's used in the real world anymore. A couple years ago, maybe that would have sounded plausible, but I doubt it's ever going to happen now. But that said, so it showed off mechanics with the magical cell phone, tagging people and all that stuff, but it also had like a bounty system where it was, you could scan the area with your cell phone and it'll do some facial recognition and find enemies or criminals, I should say, that have warrants out for their arrest, and then if you, instead of killing them, if you go and handcuff them, basically like the old takedown maneuvers of all these games. You, instead of a knife to the throat, you're just putting them in handcuffs. Then you get extra money for various upgrades and whatnot. And then on top of that is the kind of the weird, very, very strange mechanic that they put in, which is, it's called the freeze mechanic. And when I say the word freeze, you're probably thinking, oh my God, we're doing time travel now? And in fact, when they said that it had a freeze mechanic, that was actually my first thought. Was like, wait, are we now in modern warfare area where we're doing like time travel, and are we time lords and stuff? No, it's actually much more classic than that. It's basically, you can walk up to certain enemies, and your character will yell freeze, and if those enemies are so inclined, or those criminals are so inclined, they will drop their weapons and put their hands up and let you handcuff them. It's very, it makes sense because you're a cop, but at the same time, it was pretty. I watched the video, and I'm like, that is got to be the corniest thing I've ever seen in a first-person shooter. It really has to be. It's like, okay, I'll just surrender. It's like, okay, cool. Have fun with that. It's like no tranq darts, no nothing. It's just like, I'm just gonna flash my badge at you, and you're just gonna surrender. And it's like, oh, well, okay. I'm sure it made sense. It makes sense, in principle. It's just when you look at it in game, it just seems ridiculous. and to a certain extent, it is just ridiculous. But those are my initial thoughts on what I saw of the Battlefield Hardline trailer. I'm still very interested in picking up the game and playing it. I don't know. I have to go see if I've actually pre-ordered it. I'm pretty sure I did, but at this point, I've backed so many Kickstarters and I have so many pre-orders sitting out there that I couldn't even tell you what I have anymore and what I don't have. It's a blur now. Luckily I have receipts in emails that I can just go, hey Google, search my email for me, please. So that's, I'll leave you a link, obviously, to the, I think I have a Polygon article. Yeah, I'll leave you a link to the Polygon article for that. And you can watch the trailer for yourself and make your own determinations as to whether or not it's a game that you would enjoy based upon what you know of Battlefield games. Another game that I forgot to mention, I meant to mention it last week because it came out at Gamescom, and it I meant to mention it first because it really caught my attention, but I ended up going down my list the wrong way here and forgot about it. It was actually scrolled off the screen. Sunset Overdrive. My impression of Sunset Overdrive, and I may be totally wrong by this, but based upon the trailer, and obviously I'm giving you a link to the article that has the trailer in it, it looks to me like it should be a Saints Row game. It really does. And I enjoyed the heck out of Saints Row 3, and 4 I enjoyed for the most part. It did get a little bit, it got a little too platformy for my taste, but it was okay. If that's the case, if it's very close to the Saints Row games, I will be picking that up. In fact, it's in the back of my head like, maybe I'll wait and see what it looks like and what people say about it, and then I'll pick it up later. It's not going to be one of those things that I'm going to pre-order because I'm not sure about it. But I mean, if it actually is, Saints Row in disguise, then I'm right there. I'm there with it. The reason I'm not sure about it is that it's got sort of a I don't know what you would call it. It's sort of a Jet Set Radio-ish look to it, and it's sort of got these mechanics that I'm not entirely sure about. Like, it's, in Saints Row, it's like, it's just over the top and craziness, but it's still a shooter, a third person shooter, and you just go around and just being a dick to the virtual citizens. In this one, it's like, it's got that stuff from what I can tell, but it's also got like skateboards and grinding and stuff. I'm like, is this Tony Hawk or is this Saints Row? I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's both. And I've never played the Tony Hawk game, so it's not really my genre. But if they can pull it off and it looks kind of cool, then I might pick it up. But it's not something that I would pick up early. It's not something I feel like I need to put money down now on. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything by waiting on that one. So that's my thoughts on it. But obviously, there's a link in as always, and you can take a look at it and formulate your own opinions. This is just me giving my opinion, and basically Cube Ramblings is me having topics to discuss and basically going around, trolling around the internet in my normal fashion and just finding stuff that I think is kind of interesting and saying, hey, this is kind of interesting to me for this reason, and you may not be interested at all in it, but if you are, you should probably go look it up and not take my word for it. I'm just the tour guide, not the person who actually knows anything about anything. On that note, what else do we have on here? So there was a Destiny. Bungie has released a new launch trailer for Destiny. Destiny is coming out on September the 9th. And it's given me a bit to think about. The trailer itself is in the typical launch trailer style. It's like, oh, very, fast cuts and, hard hitting, fast paced stuff going on there. And they're touting, fast paced combat and, very quick, in and out and all that stuff. And from what I played in the beta, and this was, I guess, my biggest, I didn't really mention this before, but it's something that I started to realize when I was watching this trailer. It's like, the game looks a lot better in that trailer than what I actually played in the beta. Well, not a lot. It looks better in that trailer than what I played in the beta. And I hope that that's actually the case, because the combat, particularly with the combat in the Destiny beta, in my opinion, was very slow. It was very, very, like, let me stand here and shoot at you for 20 minutes. It was like, it was Borderlands. I mean, basically, that's, every time I've watched Let's Plays of Borderlands, that's the exact impression I've gotten, is that the combat in Borderlands is very, very slow. It's like, let me sit here and shoot you. Everything's a bullet sponge. Let me sit here and shoot you for 20 minutes until all those numbers on over your head finally go turn red and you die. And that was the same thing with Destiny. That's the same thing I felt with Destiny. I was like, let me just stand here and shoot these 20 guys that just spawned for the 15th time while I'm standing around here and just keep on grinding. It didn't really feel fast paced. It didn't feel like, it felt less Halo, more Borderlands, right? The thing I liked about Halo was that you could, it was very, the pace usually kept up. They usually kept the pace up pretty good. You went in, you fired a couple shots off, you killed a few things, and then you moved on, right? And I didn't get that feeling from Destiny, and I hope that that's just a tweak that they've made, that the trailer is accurate and that they've tweaked that up to the point where it is closer, the combat is closer to like Halo and stuff like that. Not that there's anything wrong with Borderlands, it's just, again, it was a very, very, it was a more traditional RTS in that, it's basically these titans standing there just hitting each other back and forth for 20 minutes, and you're just kind of waiting and waiting for the whole thing to resolve itself. You've got the hit points to last. You've got the weapons to do the damage. It's just a matter of just sitting there and waiting for it to finally add up and finally kill these mobs that are around. So I'm hoping that it is a lot faster paced, the combat. I like a lot of the locales that they're showing off. Some of the things I saw looked a little bit gimmicky, like the teleporter. Hey, we got this ring thing that has these enemies that are teleporting in and all that stuff. That's like, okay, we had a technical limitation here, so we're just going to teleport enemies in when we need them and stuff like that. But other than that, it's I can't wait for it. It poses a conundrum for me because I do definitely want to play through Destiny, but I've started Deus Ex, and I intend, hopefully, unless I run into a Watch Dogs level problem with Deus Ex, I intend to finish that. And from what I understand, it's a fairly long and lengthy game to get through, particularly for me because I'm going to end up doing a lot of side missions, and I might even, if there's mods out there that I like that add stuff to the game, I might even mod it. So that being said, going forward, Deus Ex is Human Revolution is going to be the primary in the primary slot, and then as I play Destiny and as I record stuff, it'll just go up in the secondary slot, and it'll go up at random, and there won't be any real schedule around it. It'll just be whenever I have some footage, it'll go up. Much like with Divinity Original Sin, whenever I have footage, which I'm going to end up having a lot of footage because I'm making that sort of my Friday stream now. Whenever I have footage, it'll just go up. If I have another stream like I did last night where I don't get a whole lot accomplished and I only maybe get a half an hour of footage out of it, and I don't have any more to fall back on, then it might not be twice a week. It might just go up once a week or one day out of the week. Or if I have an abundance of footage, I might put it up more than that. It's going to be in that secondary slot where I just, I put things that are random that I wanted to play and that I feel are fun. You know what I mean? And I've recorded its footage on. So that's that. Another one that I want to get to that I have been following this for a very long time, and I've been waiting with bated breath to have some kind of demo or pre-alpha or early access or whatever. Enemy Starfighter. Let me tell you about Enemy Starfighter. I am, as you've seen from my channel, big on the sci-fi fighter pilot simulation things, right? That is exactly what this is, but with a twist. And the twist is that it's done sort of in the art style of Homeworld, so you kind of feel like you're flying Homeworld ships, from the RTS real-time strategy Homeworld. And it's got there was another game, and I forget the name of it. There was a PC game that was a long time ago, and I played it quite a bit, and the name escapes me. It was a very low budget game. It had flat shaded polygons. There was no real art put into it, and it escapes me at the moment. But it has some of the same mechanics as that game, where it was like the art style of this is Homeworld-esque. It's very low key. It's you're basically a fighter pilot, and you have a group of other fighter pilots with you. You choose what sector of space you want to go into. You jump in and try to take on as many enemies as you can. Along the way, you get like little side quests and bounties, and as many bounties as you take out, they'll all give you sort of upgrades for your team. And then as long as someone on your team survives, you'll win the mission or whatever. But as people on your team die, you basically take control of one of the pilots. If that pilot dies, if you die as that pilot, you automatically get transferred over to another pilot in your squadron until there are no pilots left, and then the game's over. But it's got that feeling of, and I think they even the Rock Paper Shotgun, I think, even compares it to Star Fox a little bit. It's got a little bit of that Star Fox feel, but not in the third person, in the first person view. And because it's very fast paced, it looks very fast paced. It looks very like it's simple, right? You look at a lot of things that I'm following, like Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen and stuff. These are expansive worlds that are actually kind of complicated in some ways, and there's a lot of things to keep track of. And this game just looks like it takes all that and just goes back to the roots and says, oh, here's the simple thing. You're flying a gun, and you're shooting stuff, and you're blowing stuff up, and you're getting points for it, and it's there's progression and all that stuff. And I've been following this game for a long time, and I've been waiting with bated breath to actually get my hands on it, or be in an alpha or something like that. And it's going to bake for a long time, and I'm okay with that because it's looking really awesome. I'll link you to the article on Polygon, or I'm sorry, Rock Paper Shotgun. They have a link to the video, which is a PAX Prime video, because Mike Tipple, the developer, the sole developer of the game, is going to PAX Prime. He's going to be part of the Indie Mega booth there. So he's released a trailer for that, and it's looking quite fantastic. I'm very, very happy to see what I'm seeing there, and I want to get in on it. I need it. It's precious. The precious. Yes, I need that in my life. That's really what I need right now. Oh, I have, as always, overstocked my list of things here to to talk about, as I tend to do from time to time, always. But I think I can get one more in here before we call it, because I try to keep these to like 50 minutes or so. And this is kind of a little interesting one, off just a little interesting tidbit that was found around the net. There's an article on Polygon saying that Oakland, California, is now allowing pinball machines. You're like, what? Yep. They had a ban on pinball machines since the early 30s. And it's because when pinball machines first came out, they did not have flippers. They were not really games of skill. They were more gambling games, casino games. And, they wanted to, put a sort of, they had regulations around casinos and gambling and all that stuff, and that was part of it. And it's just recently that law has been updated for more recent times, and now pinball machines, and as well as other things are now allowed in Oakland, California. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little thing, because it gives you a little bit of a history about pinball machines and where they came from. They originally didn't have flippers, and once they did get flippers, then they became games of skill and not casino games anymore. So, well, I thought that would be a little interesting tidbit to throw out there towards the end of the episode here. But that will do it for this episode of Cube Ramblings. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you next Sunday.